Marina probably told you it's my chief culinary expertise. His voice sounded as though it were being recorded for radio, an iota too hearty. She wondered whether anyone else would have noticed. She did tell me, in fact. Danielle couldn't think what else to say. She waited for Marie to volunteer something. Shame you don't smoke, he said at last. Marina said you'd object to my smoking over the meat. It doesn't really bother me. I find one can get used to anything. She was looking at the grill now and nodded him, but she thought his eyes were on her. That's the spirit, he said. Adapt to the circumstances at hand. She stood a moment longer, made as if to go. She wants you to be her bridesmaid, I think. Yes, I think so. An honorary member of the family. I hadn't really thought of it that way. She waited again, but he seemed to be done, wholly absorbed in the turning of chicken legs and hamburgers. She drifted back into the kitchen, aware that her limbs moved loosely, that her demeanor must project cool indifference. This was the exquisite torture, not guilt as she had anticipated, not awkwardness either with Marina or her mother, as those relationships were unchanged. No, the alien was her intimate, the man she felt she so thoroughly understood, with whom she would now reluctantly have conceded she was in love, and how foolish was that, who seemed infuriatingly, impossibly, inevitably to be able to turn her off like a switch, to relegate her to the realm of the irrelevant, a playmate for his daughter merely to be tolerated and, ideally, escaped. She wanted to repeat his blandishments aloud at the table, the shock of it. She wanted to remind him whether his family was there or not. She wanted and endured in her wanting the damp seat, the dried chicken, more champagne, the headache the champagne brought, the midges, the chat, his failure, no refusal to look at me. I caused a thunderstorm with my passion, and I sit here shaking under my skin, and you don't notice because you're trying so hard not to notice. But of all the people at the table, there are really only you and me, and you know it. The air is charged with it. It's a heat, a hot wind, and Marina and Celie are a sham next to it. Annabelle ceases to exist, is simply obliterated in the gale of it. This isn't a fantasy, not my imagination. I can tell by the way you lift your fork, by the set of your jaw, by that sixth cigarette you are smoking me, or would if you could. But how long can we sustain it? How long till the eruption, till the storm returns again, and they can all see what it is, what it really is? You're very quiet tonight, Danny. It must be the nap. I sleep so well here, I never woke up properly from my nap. It may be the barometric pressure, said Celia. It affects some people. And some people claim that caffeine keeps them awake at night too, said Marie, extinguishing the sixth cigarette like the rest, half-smoked. Danielle suddenly saw through the fog or storm of her will how very little Marie liked the man his daughter was going to marry. They were not alone at the table or in the world. Ordinary as it was, the recognition pained her. She didn't want to admit the ordinary, and released her. Later, by herself, she sat at the table and watched the fireflies flicker across the lawn in the dusk and breathed the damp blue air. Murray, fetching the grill tongs to be washed, paused a moment behind her in the dark and placed his hand full on her crown like a warm cap. He said nothing and was gone, but it was all she had wanted. Venison. Thank you.